Hey guys, what is up? It is I, James Penrose, back again for my next video and yet another Simpsons episode review for you guys. This one coming from Season 3 entitled Bart the Murderer. Really? Bart the Murderer? No way. Well, we're going to get into the story right now and explain what this is all about. So, the story really kicks into gear after Bart is having quite possibly the day from hell at school. You know, he is late for school, he's 40 minutes late after his dog eats his homework, quite literally, misses the school bus, has to go on his skateboard in the pouring rain, gets hit over the eye with an American football, then forgets his permission slip to go to the chocolate factory. And yeah, he's then ended up stuck with Principal Skinner licking envelopes till 3 p.m. His tongue is completely gone, he leaves a minute early and goes again in the pouring rain back home, only that his freaking skateboard just gives way, one of his wheels just breaks off the skateboard. Bart goes flying down a set of stairs and he goes into the social businessman's club, you know, the mob's bar, where Fat Tony and his pals are. And they point tons of guns at him and they sit him down, and Fat Tony's like, well, who's this kid? And Bart's, you know, pissed at first. He's like, well, what the hell am I doing here? And Fat Tony's like, oh, you know what, kid, pick a horse, any horse you want, and we'll put some money on it. And lo and behold, that bet ends up coming through. Bart wins, picks the right horse, don't have a cowman. And, you know, therefore, Fat Tony's like, well, you know what, let's go a step further with this. Let's see if you can make Louis a Manhattan. And Bart again is like, well, what the hell, I'm just a kid, I don't know how to do this. Again, they point the guns at him, and then Bart's like, okay, I've got to do this. So, boom, he's making the drink, shaking it up and everything. And then Louis, or whatever the guy's name is at the social club, drinks it, long pause, and then he goes, superb. And then Fat Tony is like, oh, well, you know what, we've got a good one here. And that's when Fat Tony ends up hiring Bart as a bartender for the Socialman's Business Club. And, you know, that's where Bart ends up telling Homer and Marge, and Homer is like, you know, so what about this? He's just like, whatever. But Marge, obviously the concerned parent, is like, oh, well, you know what, at a business club like that where you're, you know, taking cigars and shit like that, and, you know, drinks and bartender stuff like that, that isn't cool for a 10-year-old. That is not cool. And Homer again is just like, well, whatever, you know. And Bart's actually doing pretty well for himself, believing it or not. He's making tons of money, you know, he's having a laugh with the lads. He's even having them watch Itchy and Scratchy, which is Bart's favourite show, so that's how you know Bart is having a good time. And, you know, Marge is starting to get a bit worried, even though, despite all the money he's making, even when she spots out of nowhere where Bart is looking for it, and then Marge just looks through the clothes and all of a sudden just finds money lying around. And then all of a sudden Bart ends up, you know, he's with the lads, and all of a sudden Chief Clancy Wiggum comes in. The police raid the freaking bar, and Chief Wiggum is like, oh, well, you don't know anything to do with a freaking cigar truck or anything like that. And Fat Tony's, you know, oblivious to all this. And then it turns out that all those cigarettes that Chief Wiggum's talking about had it to end up going at Bart Simpson's bedroom, believe it or not, of all places. The room is completely full of cigarettes, and Homer is, you know, obviously concerned, surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, I should say, well, what the hell. And he's like, have you started smoking? And, you know, he obviously finds cigarettes, and then that's when the guy, you know, is sent from Fat Tony to pick up the cigarettes. Obviously, that shouldn't have been in there in the first place. So, you hit the part where Marge and Homer, they're in the bedroom, and they're not like that, but that's where you know, Marge is like concerned for, you know what, well, I ain't sure about Fat Tony and those guys, and I think, you know, they're up to some dirty business. I think they're crooks here. And Homer's like, oh, well, big deal, whatever. If Bart's making a living, he's 10 years old, he's happy, big deal, what's the big problem? And, well, Marge is like, well, no, I need you to go over to that business club and just talk to them personally, one-to-one, just so that we know 100% that these guys are not crooks, that they're not criminals, that they are good people, that they're like us, and we can trust them. And Homer, you know, is like, whatever at first, but then he's like, oh, fine, I'll go there. So he ends up going there, he ends up getting pissed with the lads, and it's decided, you know what, he can stay there, he can work there and make a living. And, you know, obviously that ends up being the wrong decision in the end, but for right now, Homer's adamant that, you know, this is what is best for Bart, or so he thought at the time, and he's continuing to work there. So Bart is all decked out in a suit that Fat Tony's bought for him, and it's a classic mob, you know, attire suit. You know, it's all silver and, you know, classy, the white shoes and everything. And, you know, he ends up bribing Principal Skinner after, you know, Bart's mates is probably doing graffiti on the walls and everything, and Principal Skinner's like, well, what the hell is this? And freaking, you know, Bart is giving him loads of money, bribing him, and Principal Skinner's having none of it. Gives Bart Simpson detention at the worst possible time. Why, you ask? Because there's another mob group that's going around. He ends up going to Fat Tony's business club. All for what you asked, just for the world-famous Manhattan. Yeah, the world-famous Manhattan that Bart ended up making for Louis, or whatever the guys were at the business club. And he's there like, well, where the hell is this bartender guy? Well, where is he? What? I wanted this Manhattan. You promised me this. And Fat Tony's like, well, I don't know. Don't ask me. I mean, this kid's never late. He's on point. And you know, he's pretty much like, oh, he's not going to show up in time. So you know what, Louis, go make him a Manhattan. And you know it's going to go tits up from there. So he's making it. He's going up to the bar, gives it to this guy. He drinks it, and it's stale as shit. It's nothing to it. And the guy's like, well, what have I done to deserve this flat, flavourless Manhattan? Stands up and gives Fat Tony the good old-fashioned kiss of death. And Of all things to give him, right? Yeah, I know. That's when him and his mates leave. And then that's when Bart Simpson decides to show up. Obviously, that was out of Bart's hands. He got detention. So he shows up. Fat Tony's pissed initially, and he's like, you are late for work. And Bart's like, well, you're damn right I'm late for work. How the hell can I show up on time when I've got my principal Skinner literally holding me back and treating me like garbage? And Fat Tony's like, oh, so that's why you've been behind. It's not your fault. It's because this guy Skinner's causing you trouble. And that's when Fat Tony is like, okay, well, you know what? We better pay Principal Skinner a visit. So that's when you hit the principal's office, and Skinner's informed that, you know, there's some large men to see him, and he's like, well, I don't have an appointment. And then they come straight barging in, they slam the door open, and it's all three of them against Principal Skinner. And just when you think you're about to see the whole confrontation, it just cuts right there. And then that's when all of a sudden you see Edna Krabappel go into the classroom and announcing to the class that Principal Skinner has gone missing. What? You say? Missing? How? And everyone is like, oh my god, yes, we've lost our principal, yes. And Bart's like, oh, well, this can't be good, because I've just told the people that I've worked for that it was Skinner that, you know, was keeping me behind, and now all of a sudden he's gone missing. Surely I'm gonna be in the shit for this, or at least my mates are gonna be in the shit for this that I'm working for. So it's in the papers that, you know, Principal Skinner's gone missing, and, you know, the police chief Wiggum has confirmed, well, not confirmed, but they've gone into the suspicion that it was a murder, that someone had killed Principal Seymour Skinner, and all signs were pointing to the guys at the business club, Fat Tony, Bart Simpson, Louis, and those guys. And you ended up having this moment where Bart has this nightmare of all nightmares, where Bart's just running around on his own in the dark, and then all of a sudden you see Principal Skinner rising from the dead in zombie fashion, saying those words, "You kill me, Bart," looking dead in his eyes like a man possessed. And then Bart's legging it, and he sees constant people of Seymour Skinner rising from the grave, underwater, everywhere, saying, "You kill me, Bart," left, right, and centre, left, right, and centre. And then that's when, you know, you see him, he's behind bars, and everyone's like, "Kill Bart, kill Bart." You've even got Homer there saying, "Kill my boy, kill my boy." And that's when you see an image of him in the electric chair, and just as it's about to go off, that's where Bart Simpson wakes up in a start, screams at the top of his lungs, and then that's when Bart cannot take the suspense. He cannot take this anymore. That's when Bart Simpson ends up going to the businessmen's club to see Fat Tony, and he just asks them point blank, "Did you kill my principal?" And he doesn't really know what he's talking about at first, and he's like, "No, Principal Skinner." And he's like, "Oh, that's that Skinner guy? No, we didn't kill him." And boom, out of nowhere, Chief Wiggum comes in again and arrests all of them, Fat Tony, Bart, Louis, and Bart Simpson, the main one especially, all for the murder of Principal Seymour Skinner, or so that's what he thought. And so that's when the trial goes ahead. Bart Simpson is in the jail cell with, of all people, his arch nemesis Sideshow Bob. You know, after, you know, he tried to, you know, kill. Well, actually, I think that might have been the episode after that but anyway, that's another episode we can review where Sideshow Bob tries to kill his Aunt Selma. But nevertheless, Bart Simpson is in jail. The jury's going ahead with this. You know, you have the courts in there and everything. And that's when you hit Fat Tony hitting the stands. And, you know, well, who is the kingpin of this? If you had nothing to do with this, then who is running the ship? And he points right to Bart Simpson, completely grassing him up that Bart Simpson was the one that murdered Principal Seymour Skinner. Because, you know, in typical Fat Tony fashion, like, of course he's totally gonna deny everything, right? So Louis is on the stand, and he's trying to explain that, you know what, we didn't force Bart Simpson into this. We tried to stop him, but he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to quit, which of course this is all a total amount of, well, For the most part, it's kind of bollocks, but at the same time, Bart was kind of loving it at one point. He's making money, he's having a laugh with them, and, you know, Bart thought they were good people, and it turns out he's just been grassed up, lied to, and it's all bollocks, pretty much. And that's where Homer Simpson is called to the stand, and Lionel Hutz is like, well, you know what, you've been Bart's father for 10 years, just answer me this, and honestly, do you seriously think that he could possibly be the leader of a murderous gang, violent criminals, and all that? And after a long thought, Homer actually just bursts in tears and is like, oh, well, it's true, all the pieces fit. And even Homer, if he's saying that, that's where the judge at this point is kind of like, alright, well, he must have done it then. So it hits the part where you think the worst is going to happen, where Bart is looking at hundreds of years in jail, pretty much life in jail. That's what the Judge Snyder was about to award him with, and just as he was about to put it down once and for all that he's going down to jail for life, you know, Bart's in shackles, in handcuffs, he cannot defend himself, he cannot move. As he's about to get sentenced, then all of a sudden, bam, through the door, out comes Principal Seymour Skinner, completely unshaved, messed up, the suit's all fucked up, and that's where he ends up explaining his story. And the story is actually, of all stories, this really, how you ended up having, you know, that confrontation back a week ago with, you know, the mobsters, Fat Tony, Louie, and they're in his office, and Principal Skinner just completely tells them to get the hell out. He doesn't want to be confronted like that. He just tells them to get out, and, well, they do get out. They don't harm him or anything. They just straight up leave, you know, without a fuss. Then he ends up going home and, of all things, ends up getting trapped by a bunch of old newspapers after, you know, the whole entire pile of newspapers just fall on him and he cannot get out. And I'm just like, how? Like, surely you can get out of that, right? I mean, but no, he's just trapped in there for a good old week. Despite the police coming in and trashing the whole house looking for him, they can't find anything. Why? Because they're useless, as always. Even despite him shouting for the police, no, still nothing. They can't hear him. And then he ends up, you know, getting out of the newspapers with this rocket, you know, that he puts some soda in there or whatever, it launches up and he gets out of the newspapers, and that's his story. That's how he gets out. And that's where Bart is finally dropped of all the charges. Once the truth has all come out, that's where Bart's relieved of all the charges. He's free to go, and that's where you hit that final scene with Fat Tony and Bart, and Bart is pissed. He's like, well, how could you lie to me? How could you do this? You know, just piss off, literally. And it's almost like one of those moments where it wasn't completely fully on bad terms. I mean, Fat Tony actually tried to make peace with Bart, obviously, but, you know, the truth of the matter is, don't align yourself with this guy. Don't trust him. He's one of those few people, along with Snake as well. Do not trust a snake like Fat Tony. A snake, a liar. Do not align yourself with him. You know, don't trust anybody. That's an old saying, DTA, don't trust anybody. That's in all past films as well, for real. So, and that's where the episode ends there. Fat Tony just leaving with his girl in the limousine. So, yeah, the moral of the story is, it's a roller coaster of an episode, and don't trust anyone. You literally, Bart needs to watch himself, really, because when he's on the verge of life in jail for this, it's a mad thing. And yeah, no one murdered him. He was just trapped under a pile of old newspapers, of all things. Mad thing. Mad thing. So other than that, guys, thank you guys for watching this video. I do have another episode review coming. It's one that I've been wanting to review for such a long time, and it's actually one that kind of hits me on a personal level, for reasons that I'll get into later in the next video. But other than that, guys, this has been my episode review of Bart the Murderer Season 3. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, leave it a like, comment, and also subscribe to this channel. And all I can say is, peace out, my brothers!